Hey everybody, this is Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and ScooterWest.com here in San Diego, California. So if you're looking to buy a BV and want to accessorize it, or maybe you're doing service on a BV you already own, or any other Vespa, modern or vintage, we have you covered for parts and accessories at ScooterWest.com. So let me get right on to it. There's a lot of questions on how a keyless fob works. Pretty new on the two-wheelers. For cars, I mean, they've been doing it for about 15 years. Keyless entry on cars with the remote start and all that stuff. The buttons to open doors on cars, I mean, that's been around for like 30 years probably. But for the scooters and the push button starting where you have no keys at all to turn the ignition on, fairly new. I've seen it on nice high-end motorcycles, and now it's trickling down to the common scooters. So let me show you how this Piaggio system works and every backup and everything about it. A lot of people say, oh, what happens if you lose this? What happens if this goes dead? What happens? What happens? Well, I'll show you all the scenarios. I'm going to come up with every scenario. I'm going to show you how to rebuild this fob and replace the battery, and show you what works on the fob and what doesn't when you don't have a battery in it, and show you how the master key that's also included with the scooter and what you can do with it. So just normal operation of the scooter, you have the fob on your in your jacket, in your pocket, whatever. The only thing requirement is it just needs to be within 1.5 meters of the scooter. Of course, you have some buttons. I'll show you those a little bit later. But you just have the scooter within the presence of the scooter, the fob, very close to the scooter. If I put this fob on that scooter next door, it's not going to pick it up. So there's no chance if you hide it. Say if you didn't want to bring the fob with you, you need to hide it pretty far away and not on the scooter, FYI. I know cars, they're a little bit more sophisticated. They usually need to be near a door handle because they actually put the antenna in the door handle. But on the scooter, they have the antenna assembly right here. So as long as the fob is enabled and turned on and ready to go, which is the normal operation, I'll show you how to disable the fob a little bit later. There's 3 operations of the switch. It actually, to activate it, you push it in, but it works just like the regular ignition switch on the Vespa. So you give it the push, you can see there's this little Piaggio sign right here. So as long as the key fob's in there, the Piaggio light will light up, and it will stay on for, I think, 30 seconds, 20 seconds if I recall. As long as it stays on, you can change the mode. So we can go all the way to lock, and if I walk away with the fob, it will actually, once this light goes out, this will lock the steering. So right now it's locked, but it will lock it just like that. It shuts off, and now the scooter's locked. And with the fob still within 1.5 meters of the scooter, give it a push, light turns on, we can turn it to the off position. Can't push it anymore, you can turn it off quickly if you give it one push. If you do that, light needs to be on, and then you're able to turn it to the on position. So always got to see the Piaggio light on before you can turn it on. And so the scooter's on, ready to start. So it's on the center stand, not on the side stand. The run switch is on. And just like any other scooter, it's just like turn the key to the on position. It starts right up. So pretty much that's how it works. So hypothetically, you don't have the fob. So let's put this fob away. I'll show you another way to start it. So I don't have the fob with me. I'll tell you one thing, the fobs are rather expensive to replace, and you need to have them programmed by the dealer. It's not like the old days of the master, the red key with the scooter where you could program additional keys with yourself, just by having somebody do a physical cut. So it's a little more advanced. It's no different than any of the modern cars. Pretty much any modern car with a key fob. You got to go to a dealer. Maybe down the road there would be an aftermarket solution, hopefully. Obviously, we'd be the first ones to figure it out, hopefully, if there is a way to do it. But there's something you could do without the fob. This is your master key, as they call it. You could duplicate this key. You don't need to put a physical cut, but it'd be a good idea. It uses the exact same chip systems as the Vespa. So here at Scooter West and Vespa Motorsport, we have all the equipment to clone these keys. You could pay around 40 bucks and you can get another one of these keys and have a chip cloned and have the physical cut, which is for the backup lock, and I'll show you that a little later. So With no fob in presence, if you do this, you're gonna push that and it's gonna give you a blink error, which means it does not detect the presence of the fob. But there's a backup for this. So right around this area, if you put one of these keys, and you just gotta find the right spot. So right there, and it tripped it. You see how the Piaggio is on? That's all you had to do is put this key right next to this area, and it sent a small radio frequency to the chip in here and activated it. There's no battery in these chips. These keys are 100% waterproof. You can go swimming in the ocean, put this on your surfboard lanyard, and it's gonna work just fine. The key fob, not so much, and I'll tell you about the water resistance of that key fob shortly. So, yeah, see, I was able to turn the scooter on. So, and same with locking it. Piaggio lights on, I'm able to lock the ignition. You can push that to immediately lock it. Once that light's out, there's no turn in it. It's completely locked. So say I want to unlock it, of course, just like that first time, give it the push, and you just got to find the area where it detects the key. And it gives you, while it's blinking, you can move the key around until it detects it. So it gives you several seconds to find the location of where it will detect the chip inside this extra key that's with the scooter. And like I said, you can clone an extra. So if you're looking to get extra keys for your BV at this point, the cheapest, easiest option is not to deal with the fob, is just to clone extra keys. And it's still kind of a keyless system. You just got to be physically very close to this area for it to receive the chip signal. So let's get back to the fob. I'm going to put that back in the presence of the scooter. And of course, we can turn it on and turn it off, very easily, less like you can. There's several buttons on here. I've reviewed them in my review of the scooter. Just like a car, you got the fuel door. If you hold that button, and it pops the fuel door. If you hold this lower button, it will pop the seat. And this top one, it just flashes your lights to kind of find your scooter, the bike finder as they call it. If you're looking for your orange BV in a sea of about 30 other orange BVs on the streets of Amsterdam or wherever. Hypothetical, but nonetheless. So there's one more function of this key fob. You see there's a little green light anytime I push any of these buttons. And you do have to hold them for a second to activate the function. They're not just a quick press, so there's no accidentally having it in your, just pushing it quickly. So say you want to lock the key fob out so it won't activate the scooter. Say you have your key in a little lockbox really close to the scooter or whatever other reason. Maybe you want to put the key hidden on the scooter and go out surfing, for instance. That would be, but you don't want the scooter fob to activate the scooter. So you hold the upper and lower button. You got to press them simultaneously, and we'll see the red light come on. And at this point, guess what? It doesn't detect the fob. But it still will detect it if you put it right up against here. And I'll show you, it will detect the fob even with no battery in it. So you don't ever need to worry if the battery goes dead in here, not a problem. But see, if you put it right here, it's gonna still activate the scooter. So if you're having a fault with the fob, just always try to wave it right here, and that's how you can turn the scooter on, even with it locked. But now we wanna use the scooter. I'm not able to turn it on. You hold these two buttons again, and we're going to get the green light, and it shows that the fob is active again. So now we're good with the fob's back in its active state. So let me go to the rear of the scooter. I'm going to show you what this master key does other than start it when you put it right here, that turn the scooter on and off. So this key right here, say your battery on your scooter is completely dead or it's been sitting for a very long time, it's got a flat battery. You can't get it to start even with pushing this with this key up against it. You need to jump start it or whatever, replace the battery. So you take this key, you move all the way to the back of the scooter to the very tail section. And right under here, just forward of the turn signals and just back from the shocks, about the halfway point, right in the center, there's a keyhole. And all you do is give it a little quick turn, and you just turn it clockwise just a little bit and it pops the seat. So at this point, you can pop the seat and gain access to your battery. You know, with the toolkit, no problems here with battery, of course, but that's the worst case. You let the scooter sit and there's no way you could start it. If you jump start it now, at that point, you have access to the battery and the contents underneath the seat. Let me show you how to change the battery in this fob. So I'll tell you about the water resistance of this kind of as we go along. A little story is I have a fairly modern car that has a fob, and I couldn't believe I sent the fob through my wash. And the only reason I knew is I heard the car honking in the garage when I was doing laundry. And they make these to a level of water resistance where they'll survive something like fresh water or a wash where there's not that much water. But you certainly do not want to go swimming in an ocean or in a pool with these, because those corrosive chlorine or salt would probably still attack the electronics in it. So right here is a little pry zone, and you can take a flat bladed screwdriver and carefully pry this little cover off. So there's a little metal cover, or kind of metal look cover. And you're starting to expose some of the inner guts of it. You see a screw right there. There's actually a total of 4 screws. We'll get to it. And then you stick a flat blade screwdriver in there and carefully pry up both sides. And you got to work it left and right. And do this over a table, because the buttons will want to have a tendency to fly all over the place. So they make these pretty stout, is what I found, compared to even the car ones. It takes a little bit of effort to get it apart. So now that you got the 2 clamshells separated, you have, you can see this silicone rubber boot in there, and these little buttons actually all pop off. So we'll go ahead and take those 3 buttons off. And all the way around here is a perimeter of these little small Phillips screws. And you want to take like a jeweler's screwdriver and take this out. And the reason you may need to replace the battery, maybe you're pushing the buttons, they're not open the seat yet, and maybe it's not working 100% of the time. You got to put the fob right up against this area to start the scooter, not just be within the 1.5 meter presence. So you pull this little sealed circuit board assembly out, you flip it out, and it's got this rubber seal right here in this frame. So again, they make this, build it to a water resistant level, but not something where you want to take it in an ocean. And then you can carefully remove this circuit board from this silicone rubber gasket and boot. You see there's chips and little buttons on it. You want to pop the battery out. This battery is a long life lithium cell, and you tend not to want to touch it because sometimes your oils will be partly conductive. They have a Panasonic battery in here, which is a very good quality battery, and it's a CR2032. Pretty common coin cell battery, and the positive goes up. So just to show you what this thing will do, if you put it right here, and see, look at that. With no battery in it, it will still allow you to turn the scooter on. So if you have the battery out of this, it's still, there's enough RF energy coming off here that will wake up the circuit board and still activate. So the battery is only needed to use this fob within the 1.5 meter presence, or to use the buttons. As you can see, none of the little buttons are opening the seat. But I'm still able to activate the scooter with no battery in this. And I think that the electronics are sealed enough. Say if you completely douse this in salt water and ruined all the circuitry on it, I think the electronics for the RFID detection are robust enough to still activate the scooter. So that would be a really bad mistake. You go surfing with this thing in seawater, you completely trash it, no longer pops the seat, doesn't work within 1.5 meters, but you're still able to activate it by moving it over this area. So when I first checked out the system, I thought it was a little bit on the clunky side, you know, that you got to push this. And I still believe that in some ways, because I've used the system on Harleys and the Triumph, and they're very just much more user-friendly. There's nothing you really do. You just kind of walk up the bike. There's no buttons you push. You just turn the bike on. Much easier to use. But once you understand the nuances of how the Piaggio system works and all the various backups that they've included in it, then you can better appreciate and understand how this all works. And there's not much chance of being locked out because of some electronic failure of the fob, or you lose a fob and you still duplicate in Cologne a very inexpensive key to still start your scooter. As of April 2022, we at scooterwest.com, we have these on order replacement fobs. And again, you need to have dealer tools to replace them. You know, the program an extra fob into the system. Sorry, but I don't remember how many you can program. If I recall, there's like a couple, you can have a couple of them programmed in. But you pretty much can put this all back together, kind of in the reverse order. The battery, make sure the seal, if you want to be a little more waterproof, a real fine layer of a dielectric grease would even seal it all that much better, like the dielectric grease I use in several of the videos. That so you drop that frame in there, kind of the frame that kind of puts the seal all back in, and then you put these little screws all back in place. Before you snap it all together, you got to get all these buttons back in place and make sure you get them in the right order. So bike finder, fuel, and the seat unlock button is the last one. And you kind of get these buttons all in position. You got to wiggle them around, wiggle everything around, and then you start just snapping this back together. So it takes a little bit of resistance to get all the snaps, the snap in place, including this heel back here. Obviously, if you take it off your key ring, it's going to be even that much easier. And once it's all snapped together, you just go ahead and snap this upper cap that kind of is the closure for it. So, and there it is, all back together, and it's all stout. One thing that you can't open with the fob is you have to be in the on position, and that's how you push to open your glove box. So it's a mechanical push when it's in the on position to turn that off, so you'll open your glove box. But pretty much that's all the nuances on how the Piaggio keyless system works. I'm pretty certain Piaggio is going to start putting this on other scooters, probably including the Vespa, the top of the line Vespas. You'll see this pretty soon. It's becoming pretty standard across the board for many motorsport scooters and motorcycles and all that sort of stuff that have the keyless fob. You know, electronics have gotten quite robust on this stuff and well engineered, so they're fairly reliable. And as you can see, it's fairly weather resistant. Probably not too worried about it, and it's got several backups. Thanks again for watching. This is Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and ScooterWest.com. See you on the next one.